time. We tell it, we spend it, we waste it, we run out of it. But what is it, actually? The American Heritage Dictionary says that time is a non-spatial continuum in which events occur apparently in irreversible succession and is the interval separating the 2 points of this continuum. Really? Putting that definition within the context of our last session's sermon on the truth of light invites a slightly different perspective. Remember this quote from Science and Spirit magazine. "The solid, stable world of matter appears to be sustained at every instant by an underlying sea of quantum light. And if it is this underlying realm of light that is the fundamental reality propping up our physical universe, then let us ask ourselves how the universe of space and time would appear from the perspective of a beam of light. If you could ride a beam of light as an observer, all of space would shrink to a point, and all of time would collapse into an instant. In the reference frame of light, there is no space and time." But of course, you already know that. You know it because you live within the so-called continuum. A continuum in which everyday, eternal, and emergent times converge. Everyone in this room is experiencing all 3 dimensions of time simultaneously. So why are you looking so mystified? Okay, let me try to bring to consciousness what you already know, even though you don't necessarily know that you know it. And let's start right here and now with these perfect October days that we are all experiencing. There is something about October that can be painfully poignant. I find myself close to weeping with the wonder of it. The acute awareness of life and death conjoined as the leaves begin to fall and the flowers are still in bloom, at least here in the desert that's still coming out of its summer dormancy. For me, October is especially meaningful. Tomorrow is my younger daughter's 38th birthday, and next week is the 9th anniversary of the death of my beloved colleague, mentor, and friend Elizabeth Tarbox. Life and death, death and life. And so I was not too surprised this week to have one of our church children seek me out to talk about dying and living. This is the season when we experience both the summer heat and a cold blast of the coming of winter. One day, we've got the air conditioning on in our cars because we're baking in the 90-degree desert sunshine. The next evening, we turn on the heat to take the chill off our bones, even as we bundle up in sweaters and socks. Our closets are crammed with the clothes of both seasons. We can't quite put the summer stuff away yet. And yet we are trying to clean it out so we can bring the things here for the yard sale next weekend. This is an annual autumnal ritual in many of our sister churches, the fall rummage sale. It's like a rite. Summer, fall, winter seem all to be wrapped up together within the penetrating light of the sun that is shining so profoundly, so intently in October. So, are you with me in experiencing the sense of timelessness that is October? Then consider this. Perhaps the universe evolved we the people in order to experience different dimensions of itself. What if our human brains are actually prisms for refracting time itself into three aspects? Let's think about that for a few moments. If all time collapses into a single instant, what happens when we separate it into eternal, everyday, and emergent experiences? What does that look like? What does that feel like? And what does it mean? Let's begin with eternal time. I suspect that eternal time is not where we are going in some afterlife. I suspect rather that this is where we have come from. Out of the stars have we come is a responsive reading we share often in this sanctuary. And I humbly wear our Nevada star here on my stole. Thanks to Colleen. Stars remind me of the English poet Wordsworth's Ode on Intimations of Immortality. Remember? Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life star, hath elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar, not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come, from God, who is our home. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Okay, get yourself over the word God if you need to. Substitute the word universe if that works better for you. And let's get on with considering Wordsworth's poetic insight. What an intriguing idea. But is it true? And how do we know it is true? When my first granddaughter was born, I was attending seminary on the other side of the continent. I didn't get to meet her until fall break, when she was already 6 years old. As I held her for the first time, she looked up at me from deep blue eyes that seemed all-knowing beyond all possibility. She even held up an index finger as if she were explicating some ancient theological position I needed to know and remember. My son-in-law snapped a picture at that very moment, and when I shared it with a professor sometime later, he remarked that Mackenzie was clearly an old soul. Children are still fresh in their universal being, and we've all been there. We've just forgotten where we came from.